What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nathan, and on this planet we send it. I wanted to go ahead and try to do something a little different with this garden update, which is wait a little bit later into the day to see how the lighting would be affected and see how good my camera would be able to go ahead and do the recording. Sometimes I try to catch it with good amount of light, but then it just seems like the lighting and the direction it's coming from really makes for a bad picture. So without further ado, let's get into the video and let's go ahead and send it. The strawberries have definitely come to an end. There might be some onesie twosies up there, but that is about it. We are still getting in some tomatoes growing from the strawberry plants that have just ended up in there, and they're coming in and they're actually tasting pretty delicious. The basil plant is doing good, and next to the amaranth, also known as Kaniwai down in South America, it's definitely going into full seeds and starting to fall into the ground, so that's pretty exciting. And then just kind of taking you guys up to where we last were, all the greens that are coming in have actually not been eaten up by the insects nearly as much as they have in previous years. So I don't know if that's a sign that the soil is being able to, and the biology within the soil is helping to fight off these sort of green predators, or these predators that prey on my greens. But that is, I'm just happy to see that they are starting to be able to fend for themselves a lot better and not take damage so early, which then just destroys the crop. This corner is probably going to be renamed from kale corner to something else, because the hops are definitely just dominating and just really looking like they just look extremely healthy, and they're just so plentiful. So that's great. The thing is by the time I go ahead and harvest them within my kombuchas, I don't know how long they're going to last. Hopefully they'll last for a few months or at least half a year. But regardless, looks like we're getting a good harvest, and I'm happy that I decided to plant the hops this year. And here where the kale meets the tomatoes and meets the different hops in here, because the hops are even all the way down here. As you can see, they're under there. Just this whole section is just completely engulfed with edibles. It's just really happy to see. And I'm going to take a snapshot from down here. But you can just really to try to see how well the tomatoes are doing this year. You really got to sort of take a look at it from a distance and just see that they are really towering and doing great. It's probably some of the highest that I've seen them go in the year, and they've been growing pretty tall, and they have been growing tomatoes, but I haven't seen them growing tomatoes relative to their size. So what I mean is, I would expect to see more flowering and everything, or more flowers turning into tomatoes, but I don't want to make it seem like that it's like low production. I just thought it might be a little bit more. So maybe what that's telling me is I might need to up the bacteria dominated and basically just change the biology so it is more bacteria dominated, is what I'm trying to say, so that it assists the plants in becoming to fruit more, vice becoming a little bit taller. The only thing that I want to kind of mention here on both the dual grafted tree and the peach tree is that they are out of season. I'm just now kind of waiting for indications of fall coming to where they start losing their trees. However, I have been unable to sort of keep up. The goji berries have been really producing well, and as a matter of fact, the milkweed that we've planted as a matter of fact, once it focuses, you'll see there's a caterpillar right up there, a monarch. Come on and focus. You can do it. Let me give a different angle, see if that helps. There we go. But these are definitely being inhabited by the monarch caterpillars, and I have seen some cocoons, so they are transitioning. So we're kind of doing our part to make sure that the monarch butterflies remain not extinct. Man, the two semi-dwarf trees are really starting to look like they are something other than semi-dwarf trees. And actually, I think they might even be full dwarf trees. I don't remember, and I lost the placard that told me what these are. But regardless, we have new growth coming in, and so on this one, it's looking really good. And even on this one, this was basically when I basically posted this up, I posted it up almost near the top, and you can see we've already grown quite a bit since then, probably in about like 2 weeks. These trees really are starting to tower, and it's just a great sign. But the Mexican lime tree is just seriously towering, and it just continues to grow and grow. I cut a lot of the suckers that were down there that I didn't notice that were at least on the main trunk where it splits at the Y down there. I've allowed some others to go and grow because, like I said, I kind of want to, maybe grow a little bit better cone at the bottom there and let it sprout up. And I might, sort of trim the top and sort of start over. But regardless, it's a good sign that the roots are doing well, that when you can, let me see if I can go ahead and zoom in up here, that these limes are now starting to become what we consider full-size limes, and they're all the way at the top of the tree, so that the fact that the tree can get the nutrients up to the top of the tree and they're growing this well, that's a good sign that the overall tree is doing great. And same for the fig tree. This thing has just sprouted, and look at it. It is almost on par with the Mexican lime tree. If you recall, the end of over the season when it was dormant, I basically cut it down to just the main stalk, and it's doing great. Let's go ahead and come into its and see its little neighbor here. Little neighbor is not necessarily growing as fast, but it does look like it's healthy, and it is growing. As you can see towards the top there, it's getting ready for another growth. So ideally, if it can get that growth and maybe one more prior to hibernating this year, it would be great. And the avocado tree, I believe the last time I was pointing it out to you, it had a little bit of a lean on it, basically leaning towards the grass. And I went ahead and I straightened it up a little bit, so it's a little bit more upright. Not perfect, but this thing is really doing great. I'm very excited to see what happens come the springtime and the flowering, and to see how many fruit that go to actually becoming avocados. How many flowers actually go to being avocados. Now, usually on the first year, you'll get a lot of flowers. You'll even start to get a lot of baby avocados, but only about less than 5 make it. And I'm just kind of curious to see that. This thing looks really strong. Maybe it might exceed the average. We'll have to see. Big Bertha is in full bloom. She has guavas all over her. Very excited to start getting the guavas and making guava kombucha again. She's coming. She's like a volcano just getting ready to erupt. The good thing is at least we know when that's going to take place. And the last time we talked, I definitely remember about discussing the pomegranate tree and how I might do a cutting to basically prevent or reduce some of the weight that was pulling this way. And I did do that. So I cut off a couple branches. Unfortunately, I did cut a branch that had a pomegranate on it. At least, like, there was only 2 on the tree. Now there's only 1, so that's a little unfortunate. But ever since I cut it, it really is like starting to grow even higher now. So all the trees are just doing really well this year and taking. So if I were to attribute it to something that I did other than it just doing itself, I think the mulch that I put down a few months ago, which I'm going to be doing it again here pretty soon, is probably what is what we can give credit to these trees doing so well this year. Now the baby avocado tree, still really doing good. I haven't had to prune anything else, although the pomegranate tree might start to be encroaching. The sweet peppers are coming in, and heck, we're going to definitely be getting some from there. I'm actually kind of impressed with the minimal leaves that it has. It's still doing pretty good on creating fruit, so that's a great sign. And here the ashwagandha bush is just really doing great. And so nothing too much to highlight there. I mean, it's just, I keep having to trim it back to make sure it doesn't intrude on the others. But the elderberry tree, unfortunately, the elderberries are way up there. And the thing about elderberries is the berries are so small. I learned the hard way because I thought they would grow bigger, but they didn't. But all these little clusters are like now good 8, 12, 14 feet up there now, and it's like you would have to get a ladder for them. So I may be either taking out the elderberry tree altogether or moving it, or maybe trying to figure out a way that I can keep the fruiting a lot lower for next year. I don't know, but right now I've only been able to get a few of them, and that's just because when it grows up that high because of the lack of sun when it's a young tree, that the berries are just so high up there that I just really can't take good use of them. But the papaya tree, man, this thing is really looking healthy. I'm just so happy to see this. This thing is now, again, I'm not that tall, but it is almost as tall as me. So I'm here at about my eye level now, and you can see that these leaves are almost up to my eye level, and so that puts them probably at about 5'4", 5'6", and so these things are really doing great and have sprouted. And let me take you in here to the flowers. So I try to navigate around these leaves without crushing them. They're flowering. I just don't see any signs. I don't know what it'll look like when they close up. Probably, although maybe that might be a sign right there that that's already starting to transition to papaya. I don't know, but we'll keep an eye on them. And definitely when it looks a little bit more like 100% that it's fruited, obviously I'm going to be updating you guys every garden update. Yeah, and the orange tree, it's still growing. Like I said from the last one, I do want to get some mulch down because I think it'll help, but it is still getting in some growth. I just will feel a lot more comfortable that once it has another thick layer of mulch down, that I'm anticipating I will probably see another more developed or a more thorough growth throughout the whole tree. The little engine that could. Man, this mango tree is really doing great. Look at these new growths over the last 2 weeks. These growths are almost as thick as the branches just beneath them. Or maybe maybe it's the color, but they even kind of appear that it might be thicker than the branches beneath them. They're doing so great. But as you can see, not only do they have a lot of new growth, they're going in for even more growth. So it's just doing great. So we now have a new alpha branch. Usually it's the middle one, and at least the middle one was the alpha branch and doing great. But it now has now taken third place, and we got a new first and a second place back there. So yeah, the little engine that could is really I'm really impressed with this thing. And I'm so happy that when it was basically just 4 little leaves down there and the leaves were bigger than the main branch or the main trunk, that I didn't just cut it, because it seemed like it took a year or 2 before it actually started to grow any. Just briefly going to cover the grapes. The grapes are definitely all the way done with production, and I'm just waiting for them to start going into hibernation mode, and again just show me signs that fall is coming. And then that way, well, when it does come, I'll be very excited to prune it back and get it ready for the next year. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. The mosquitoes are just eating me up right now, so I got to get on out of here. But what I do wanted to let you know, as I kind of highlighted at the beginning of the video, I've actually been working on 2 other videos that have been taking a lot of time, or actually just one video that's been taking a lot of time. I've almost completed the review on the pressure washer, the Ryobi 3000 PSI pressure washer. However, since we had great weather last weekend, it was very cool. I decided to tackle a project that required me to get into the attic, which was basically remove the popcorn ceiling and install some recessed lighting and a fan. So that video has actually been, I was pretty much working on it all week, and so including last weekend. So I'm gonna have that video out to you probably, and it's looking like it's definitely gonna be in 2 parts. So I'll get this garden video out this weekend, and then the 2 videos that I put out next week will be part 1 and part 2 of that project. But anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.